Well, folks, here we again for the weekly forecast. During this last month, of course, I've been on vacation and I'm back in the saddle again. And during my absence, we have seen a variety of weather that you would expect during the spring, not this late in the spring, but what you would expect as you transition from the winter to the spring. Heavy snowfall across the panhandle, severe weather outbreaks consistently across the state, a few isolated tornadoes on several occasions, heavy flooding in the southeast, and then as you move to the south of us, there's where the real action is occurring. We have seen essentially across southern portions of Texas northward through central Kansas almost 2 years with the precipitation deficits eliminated during the last 30 days, and now we're working on the third year precipitation deficits. So we've seen significant reduction in the coverage of drought and the intensity of the drought, as one would expect. Right now, what we're dealing with is more of a hydrological aspect of this drought. We don't see any agricultural implications in terms of shortages of moisture across these regions due to the excessive rainfall. In fact, we need to see some drying conditions. And unfortunately, as you look out to the 30-day outlook just issued by CPC on Thursday, it does indicate above normal moisture will continue through the month of June with cooler than normal conditions from the central and southern plains northward into Nebraska. And that also continues for the summer months and also as we get into the first part of the fall months. So a wet pattern is firmly established out all the way into the fall according to CPC, as we have this El Nino that we're generating in the eastern Pacific that is expected to increase the monsoonal flow into the southwest and increase our precipitation consistently throughout the summer. This would be good news in terms of eliminating the drought completely across much of the central and southern plains, but it may cause some problems because of too much moisture and causing some significant planting delay issues. And then we have to deal, of course, with the wheat harvest, and this is causing some issues in terms of potential for wheat quality. But here in Nebraska, we're looking out this next 7-day period. We do have an impending system moving into our region that is expected to generate moisture, and then a couple other chances as we move later into next week. So let's take a look at the upper air models and see what we can expect. We'll draw your attention to this trough that generated the precipitation across the western part of the state yesterday. That is expected to once again generate scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms across the western 2/3 of the state through the first half of the day, and then we'll start to see some of that starting to spread into the eastern Nebraska as we go through the late afternoon hours, with some of the precipitation during the late afternoon and evening hours coming in across the panhandle. But the heaviest of the precipitation and worst of the severe weather will be across the central and southern plains. As we go into Sunday, we'll start to see that precipitation move into central Nebraska and eastern Nebraska, and then as the afternoon progresses, we'll start to see that moving more into eastern Nebraska with clearing in the poor central portion of the state. And by Monday, we'll start to see the precipitation coming in during the early part of the morning hours. Most of it will be confined to the upper Midwest, and right now we're not expecting a tremendous volume of precipitation in this region as it's cut off from the Gulf, but we will see some cooler conditions on Monday before we see yet another piece of energy movement across the central plains that is expected to impact northern half of Kansas and southern 1/3 of Nebraska, with potentially up to a quarter-half inch of moisture. If we get some thunderstorms, it could be locally heavier. This system will rapidly move toward the east, and we'll start to see the ridge building in with a warming trend, moving back towards seasonal to maybe even above normal temperatures as we start to approach the 80 to 85 degree mark in the southwest. And on Thursday, it looks like we'll see the 80s well confined to the southern portion of the state, and southeast Nebraska may be actually pushing up in toward the upper 80s, and we'll start to see this trough moving in, which generates some thunderstorm activity during the afternoon hours, and that will continue on into Friday. As the system pulls across the region, we could see a widespread convective outbreak coming across the state of Nebraska. In terms of temperatures, we are looking at cool conditions this weekend with heavier precipitation toward the western part of the state, and then we do see an increase in precipitation later in the week with warmer temperatures. 8 to 14-day forecast indicates that we will see fairly close to normal conditions from next Thursday to the following Tuesday. And in terms of precipitation, once again, heavy above normal moisture in our region.